welcome back to Talk to Me, and we've got the one, the only Trey Anthony with us in the studio. You know, we did our first piece, and now, you know, when I heard Trey Anthony, the writer, acclaimed, you know, theatrical television, I said, how black mothers say, I love you. And I'm like, hey, Jeremy and Jesse, don't I say I love you all the time? Talk to me about that.
I grew up in a household, and I do say this, I make this disclaimer, I'm not talking for all black mothers, okay. I'm not talking for all black women, I'm not talking for the whole black community, I'm talking for myself. And also, I feel just conversations I've had with some of my friends. I grew up, my grandmother was very much a part of my life of raising me. And then so I grew up with my mother and my grandmother. And we were not the lovey-dovey kind of family who said, I love you. It was something that, it wasn't until my nephew, who now is 3 years old, was born, and he started saying, I love you, then we as a family started to say it. And I remember how the play came about was when my grandmother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was reading this book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying, and I went to interview my grandmother because she was dying, and I said to her, you know, like, what is one of your biggest regrets? And my grandmother said, my biggest regret is leaving your mother behind in Jamaica and my children, and she said, especially your mother, because she never forgave me. And she started crying and was very, you know, just very emotional. And I showed my mother this video, and my mother said, I did not know that she ever loved me because she never said it. And I went back to my grandmother and I said, you know, Grandma, Mom says that you never said it. And she said, I don't have to tell her. She should just know. I showed her. And I think that was something that I had to learn also as a daughter growing up in this household, of this is the way my mother and grandmother showed and expressed love. And a lot of times these women were in survival mode. They didn't have time to be the Claire Huxtable, right? And sit down and do these lovely talks or be in the kitchen baking cookies and everything. The women that I know were definitely in survival mode, and they showed their love in it maybe not have been verbal, but I know without a doubt that I was a loved child. Yes. And so I just thought that I really needed to talk about this in our community, and also how do we change that? And so that was also important for me because I wanted to be a different sort of mother. I also wanted to be a different sort of aunt to my nephew. And this little being came into our lives, and we just all changed and evolved as a family, and that we wanted to heal and we wanted to love in a different way. And so that's why it was really important for me to tell this story.
All right, okay. You're okay.
Well, you're not coming to beat me, were you, Denise?
Well, it was interesting because Denise and I actually had a conversation about it, because I was saying, well, Denise, I'm not a mother, and I'm not black.
You're joking.
I never know.
You know, hearing you speak about the play, it resonated so much with me on different levels. It didn't resonate, like I couldn't understand, you know, it wasn't my experience, but at the same time I could understand my mother never said that you know, she loved us. And I thought, is it generational? What do you think about this play is common for everyone, and what kind of brings it together, do you think? Because not everybody that's going to watch the play obviously is black.
So definitely, and this play has really transcended race. For me, like, you see women in the audience, black, white, Asian, First Nation, all of us are there enjoying this piece. And I think what it comes down to is this is a family. There's a mother and 3 daughters, and each one of them, you know, wants to be loved and is thinking the other person doesn't love them, and the other person thinks, I'm loving you the best way possible. And I think all of us who are sitting there knows about, I don't think anybody can say on some levels our family are not dysfunctional, right? That we want to do something a bit different. We want to do things a little bit better. We want to be different parents than our parents were to us. And I think that is where the commonality comes in, that people see themselves and go, oh, that's my family, that's my mother, that is me. And I think all of us have this way, I think, be it in partnerships, be it with our families, that we're trying to get loved the way that we want to be loved, but someone's just loving us the way they know how best to love us. And we don't ask the question, how do you want me to love you? What does love look like for you? It's very rare that we ask that question. Am I loving you the best way possible? Does this feel like love to you? And I think that's kind of the conversation that starts to happen in this play, that even at the end of the play, I say to the audience, go home and ask the person who you love the most, do you feel I'm loving you the best way possible? What does love look like for you? Right?
Yeah, that's intense. It's
Talk to me, baby.
Yeah. I don't want to mash up anybody's relationship.
It's an intense subject, but it's so relatable. And again, there's talks of film. How did this discussion come about with Clement Virgo, and how is the difference for you between writing a screenplay versus, a play?
Well, Clement Virgo actually came out to see the play. And Clement Virgo is also a very stoic person as well, right? So you never quite know what's going on with Clement Virgo, right?
But maybe you should share with our audience who Clement Virgo is.
So Clement Virgo, he is an acclaimed director. He did the Book of Negroes. He's currently working on Greenleaf for the OWN network. He also did work on the L Word. So he's a award-winning director. Things are gone. So when Clement Virgo comes to your play and says big things are gone, right? Right? And when Clement says, I want to turn this into a film, you're like, okay, Clement. Okay, Clement, let's do this, right? You're not questioning nothing, right? So he came to the play, and he was very touched by the play because it really resonated with him, because he had that history of also being left behind by his own mother. And so the subject matter really resonated with him. And he was just like, this is a story, like, I think that hasn't been told. It's a part of Canadian history that has been swept under the rug, of how many Caribbean women came over to Canada, to England, to America as domestic workers to come and take care of other people's children, leaving their children behind. And so it was something that he could really relate to, and he wanted to make it happen. And for us writing the film, I'm writing the film with my business partner, Karis Lewis, and I'm used to very much working just solely alone on my scripts and my work. And, Clement is really great about giving notes and things like that. And so we're just starting the process, and it's really, it's a learning process for me to learn how to kind of share the baby, right? Because I feel like for the longest time I've been a single parent, and now I feel like I'm in a sister wives situation, right? Right? So that has been something that I'm learning, like, to go, okay, like, and take notes and see, and people know what they're doing as well as you. So I think that has been a real learning process for me.
And Trey, as collaborative as TV was, as you were saying, with so many people and so many moving parts, the movies are even more expansive. And time has a way of elapsing. I remember, for instance, back in the day that Whoopi Goldberg optioned Timothy Finley, great Canadian novelist. He's one of his best books, The Wars. And around that same time, too, Spike Lee got mighty peeved off because Oprah swept away from him Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon.
Okay.
Those were 20-something years ago, and neither film has been produced. What is the timeline for the production of this play? Because it's still happening, it's still resonating. What's the timeline for this from here now to when we can see it on the screen?
Well, I think one of the reasons why I'm excited about Clement is I feel like Clement is a person who gets things done. I think between the two of us and how our brains think about getting things done, we're going to make it happen. I think I'm very passionate about the project. I think he's very passionate about the project. And I'm thinking we also have to still raise funds for the project. So right now we have an option deal. Like, my mother was just like, Lord God, movie! And millions are coming in. And I'm like, slow down, right? This ain't Moonlight yet. You know what I mean? Let's slow down, right? So it's that, but we got to raise the funds. We're going to apply. We are right now just first meetings and just writing the treatment. So it still very much is in the early stage, but I'm a big believer in if I say something's going to happen, it's going to happen.
And maybe in the 60 seconds we've got left, we don't know how it got by so fast.
Oh my gosh.
The play is
Yes.
like it's on the road, baby.
on
Talk
the
to me about
road,
where,
yes.
where and when.
It's going to be in Ajax with B. It's going to be in Mississauga. It's going to be in Oshawa. And we're just telling people to go out. You can get tickets at 905-499-3743. You could also go to Girls in Bow Ties Productions.ca and order your tickets, or you could type in How Black Mothers Say I Love You, and you can buy your tickets.
We're here on Talk to Me with Trey Anthony, and we have more to talk about. So stay with us. We'll be right back.